He's using this satellite network to track his targets. Oh, you're not getting away that easily.
For us, this is really a culmination of everything we've learned about developing for this console. We did Spider-Man Remastered, Miles Morales, and Ratchet & Clank. And so as our fourth title for the PS5, we've really gotten to leverage everything we've seen in developing those games. Our performance mode for this title has ray tracing on by default. We've really expanded that ray trace reflections throughout the game. It's on the water and the oceans and really gives a more realistic picture everywhere. We of course use the SSD and the storage solution on the console to really even more affect gameplay wise. You know, in the first couple Spider-Man games, we really used it to get rid of the loading screens, but now you see it getting used to offer faster traversal through the world. When you come off those slingshots in the open world, I think you're going about 3 times as fast as we could in the first game. I mean, on top of that, we have characters that are more detailed and lifelike that help us tell better, more nuanced stories.
We also have the DualSense with the haptics, and that adds a layer of immersion that is really awesome that we get to play with. So you saw in our demo in the particle accelerator having to hit that sweet spot. In addition, all of our cool audio technology, 3D audio, so you get to hear iconic Tony Todd Venom. It's spooky. It's really like the first time we heard that performance was really something really great.
We're going to heal the world.
How we decide to render things is we like to have our resolution be dynamic, and then we have a pretty robust temporal anti-aliasing solution that lets us scale that up and down, do different dithering effects with materials and things in the scene. And what that means is we get to take the player's preference about how they want to play the game, and also make sure we use all the features of their display in the console as well. So whether you like playing at 60 frames per second or 30 or 40, if you have a 120 hertz TV, we really get to tailor everything to best utilize that. For those titles, we had fidelity mode, which was like the full 4K and ray trace reflections, and then we had a performance mode, which turned the ray tracing off and rendered at a lower resolution. And then we were able to add, I think around launch, if not just after, the performance RT mode, as we called it, which was trying to be the best of both. And for this game, we were really able to deliver that as a baseline performance mode. There's no mode of this game that has the ray tracing turned off because there's no need for it. And we've really figured out how to deliver what we feel like is the right Spider-Man picture and visuals, and we want to make sure every player is seeing that. I think in this demo here, there's one cinematic where Miles and his mother are having a conversation before you go off and do some Spider-Man stuff. And Bobby, our animation director, was pointing out that there's not a lot of dialogue in that scene. So much of that story is told from their faces and the way they're emoting and reacting to things from each other. And that's really new for us in this game, that we've been able to do that. You know, we're scanning faces with more fidelity, and we've built out more of our processing pipelines to handle that in more detail. Certainly our models are more dense than they have been in the past. And there's some scenes in this game that have 4, 5, 6 main characters on the screen at the same time. That's really challenging for my team to optimize and get running in frames sometimes, but it really opens us up to tell more complex stories with these characters.
Here to pick up a serum order for a Dr. Connors?
We have a whole team of folks who, especially in those cinematics, are very carefully constructing lighting rigs, you know, to light the characters from the right way for every individual shot. If you could see it without the camera changing, you'd be surprised at how much changes between every shot to get it just right. You know, we definitely expanded on it from a tech point of view. Certainly in the demo, you saw Craven, who has a luscious, hairy in a bunch of ways. But it's, you know, more affected by physics and wind and feels a lot more cohesive. I think MJ's hair, as you've seen, is some
and her hair's down, and it's beautiful.
Hair's down, and
jealous
that is
of MJ's hair.
Not to be understated. From a challenge point of view, I think in games you so often see female protagonists and characters with hair that's up, because that's way easier to animate and deal with. And so to have it low and over the shoulders and need to behave correctly as she turns her head and all that was a challenge, but I think it was a fun challenge. You know?
You sort of have your tried and true skyscrapers in Manhattan, and once you get to cross the river, which is an experience on its own, hopefully use the web wings to do that and experience the speed at which you can do that. You get over to our Spider-Man stomping ground. So you get to visit, Aunt May's house and explore in Queens and get that more sort of neighborhood feel. And it's, lush trees. And then, for Brooklyn, you get Brooklyn Visions, and Miles is sort of like high school stomping ground. And that really comes across in some of the activities and the adventures you can have in these neighborhoods.
It's cool. Queens has a very residential feel to it that's a little different from parts of Manhattan. Brooklyn has its own landmarks. Of course, we're excited for players who know Brooklyn or familiar with the area to find unique buildings that they recognize from our New York.
The great thing in this story is we sort of have these established characters. You know both of our Spider-Men. You hopefully love them. And they're at different points in their lives. Miles is, facing what does he do after he graduates high school, and what is the next step in his life as becoming an adult and what he wants to pursue.
Super stressed about my college essay. Pete's busy doing other stuff.
For Peter, right, he's struggling after the passing of Aunt May and how to constantly balance those duties of paying the bills and being a Spider-Man. And once we add in the symbiote and Kraven showing up into this story, we really get to experience the way in which those challenges really manifest and affect our Spider-Man. So hopefully when you played, you saw how the black suit is maybe affecting our normally quite wholesome Peter Parker, and you got to experience how Miles is able to approach the conflict in his life right now and maybe not having as much confidence about knowing what he's doing next. I'm blown away by some of the way we were able to bring the symbiote to life. The symbiote powers that Peter has in the black suit have a very visceral and powerful feel to them, both visually and while you're playing. I think that experience is going to sort of put you in the shoes of, do you want to take that black suit off, or do you want to sort of give in to that power?
The process of understanding what the symbiote would look like and how it would behave pretty much took the entire development of the game, I think, because it impacts everything else. If you make it look too watery, well, then Venom's kind of weak.
Yeah.
If you make it too solid, then he's like a weird octopus. And it needs to be gooey, and we don't have ways to animate these crazy ways that this substance might behave throughout the game. So it really went from animation tools, animation techniques, material treatments from a technical art team, how environment was laying things out, and it's really just super multidisciplinary to bring it into a cohesive whole.
Are you kidding me, Connors?
Well, I think we know we have a really strong foundation from the first couple games, and we're not trying to change for change's sake. There's a lot that people love about these games that make them Spider-Man games. It's about understanding what that is, and then ways to try something different and make it new. And as you add new things, you got to make sure they fit together in the right way.
And I think our team is also normally very excited at the opportunity to continue to innovate. I think, we want to satisfy people, make sure they're happy with their experience. We're not straying too far from something that they know and love, but we want to surprise them and we want to give them new toys. So in a lot of ways, it's almost like, what would be cool? Could we add something like this or something like that? And we also have, an open and collaborative team. And I think that goes a long way into some of the best ideas come from the most unexpected place on the team. And you end up with these really delightful moments that bring that sort of fresh perspective and change to something like the third game in a series.
Hopefully you got a sense with the web wings how it's not about, okay, we have wings now and that's the new mechanic. It's about how do they fit with swinging? How do they add to each other to create, new fun ways of going around the city and really build up even what was great about the first game or the first two games as you're adding something new. Man, I'm just excited for people to play, and I hope they have a great time. A lot of care and love and effort went into this game from a whole lot of people who've been working really hard on it, and I'm just excited to see all of that realized for players.
We love seeing the reactions of the players and and we want people to have a great time. So every time we release anything, it really does give us good energy to hear people's thoughts and feelings and excitement, and really does keep us going. So I hope everyone is satisfied and they loved what we did.